पमश्रवस्तमम् ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणां ब्रह्मणस्पत आनः शृण्वनोतिभिः सीदसादनम्। ॐ महागणपतये नमः। प्रणो देवी सरस्वती वाजेभिर्वाजिनीवती धीनामवित्र्यवतु। आनो दिवः पर्वतादा सरस्वती यजतागन्तु यज्ञम्। वाग्देव्यै नमः। सदाशिवसमारम्भाम् शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्ताम् वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयम् करुणालयम् नमामि भगवत्पादम् शङ्करं लोकशङ्करम्। शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यम् केशवं बादरायणम् सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैस्तुष्टुवागुंसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः। स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। कैवल्योपनिषत् कैवल्योपनिषत् मंत्र 20 in my book. In other books it may be 18, 19. जाग्रत् स्वप्न सुषुप्त्यादि प्रपंचम यत् प्रकाशते तद्ब्रह्माहमिति ज्ञात्वा सर्वबन्धैः प्रमुच्यते। The Guru of Kaivalyopanishad, Parameshthi, is concluding the teaching. Generally, the teaching is concluded by telling the phala, the result. It is a common practice in our tradition. Even at the end of any stotra, you will find phalashruti. Whether it is Vishnu Sahasranama or Lalita Sahasranama or any stotra, at the end there is phalashruti. Likewise, even in the Upanishad, generally at the end of the teaching we find the phala. What do you get? What do you get by understanding the vision revealed in Vedanta? What is the benefit? We are spending at least 1 hour a week, 6:30 to 7:30. Is it worth spending? If there is no phala, if there is no result, there is no point in wasting our time. So, is there any benefit? Then the Upanishad says, yes, definitely there is a benefit. There is phala. And unlike other things, other spiritual practices, the phala of Vedanta is not invisible. It is not adrishta. It is drishta. One can see the result. Even when one is alive. As and when you get the knowledge, as and when you assimilate the knowledge, you see the result. You experience the result. Therefore, the Upanishad says, Jnatva sarvabandhaihi pramuchyate. Jnatva, by means of the knowledge, pramuchyate, the person, the jnani, is liberated. The knowledge liberates. It frees, makes a person free, gives the true freedom. Knowledge leads to freedom. In fact, the Sanskrit word moksha means freedom. If you translate the word moksha, it is freedom. Pramuchyate makes a person free. We have a modern understanding of freedom. The youngsters say, I will do what I like. I will do what I like. That is freedom. doing what I like. Why I should follow the values. Why I should follow the dharma. I do what I like. This is the modern understanding of freedom. But unfortunately, it is not freedom. Doing what I like is not freedom. If I do what I like, I become a slave of my likes. Just analyze this sentence. I do what I like. That means I become a slave of my likes. Likes means desires. Kama, raga. We have many words in Sanskrit. Kama, raga, etc. I become a slave of my kama. As long as I am a slave of my desires, I cannot be free. Slavery and freedom cannot go together. Because slavery to one's own karma is samsara. Slavery to one's own desires is samsara. This is another definition of samsara. Being a slave of one's desires. There are enough statements in the Vedas as well as the Smriti. Kama esha krodha eshaha rajoguna samudbhavaha. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, the kama, the desire, enslaves a person and makes a person suffer endlessly, perpetually. Therefore, kama, desire, is a binding factor. Desire is the binding factor. As long as there is desire, as long as there is kama, a person is bound to samsara. Therefore, moksha is to be free from kama, is to be free from desire. How to be free from desire? The Upanishad analyzes the root of all desires is avidya, ignorance. Avidya is the root of all desires. Therefore, the solution is to remove avidya, remove ajnana. Avidya is ajnana. Synonyms. The solution is to remove avidya, ajnana. How to remove ajnana? Jnana. Therefore, jnatva pramuchyate. By means of jnana, one becomes free. Sarvabandhaihi. From all binding factors. Referring to all desires. All kama. Jnatva sarvabandhaihi pramuchyate. This is the result. Knowing what? Knowing the Brahman. Brahma. Tad Brahma. Understanding the Brahman. And whenever the word Brahman comes, the Upanishad cannot stop. The Upanishad wants to explain Brahman in as many ways. The Upanishad is explaining Brahman. What is Brahman? The Upanishad says, Prakashate. Yat prakashate tad Brahma. Another definition of Brahman. Another way of explaining Brahman. Yat prakashate tad Brahma. Prakashate illumines. The illuminer is Brahman. What is the illuminer? It is the light of all lights. Jyotisham Jyotihi. The ultimate illuminer. The consciousness. Chaitanya. That is Brahman. Yat prakashate. It is the illuminer of everything. And everything includes all the three states. Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti. Waking, Swapna, dream, and Sushupti, deep sleep. The consciousness illumines all the three states. The illuminer of the three states transcends the three states. The illuminer transcends the illumined. The illuminer is not affected by the illumined. Brahman, being the illuminer of the three states, is not affected by the three states. Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti. None of the three states affect Brahman. The Prapancha, the universe, comes under these three states. In the waking there is a universe, Jagrat Prapancha. In Swapna, in deep sleep in dream, there is a Prapancha, a universe, Swapna Prapancha. And so, even in deep sleep, there is a potential Prapancha, which manifests once again. At that time, it is not manifest. You don't see. But it has not gone. It's all there. Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti, Adi, etc. Sometimes there may be another state also, which doesn't come under these three states. For example, Murcha is another state. Murcha. When you become unconscious because of some reason, like anesthesia, it is Murcha. And there may be some other in-between states which are not very common. It's possible. Generally, we say there are three states. But sometimes there may be some unusual state also. Irrespective of what state it is, every state of mind is experienced, is illumined by Brahman. That means it is experienced by Brahman. It is experienced as an object of Brahman, as an object of consciousness. Therefore, no state can be called the state of Brahman, since every state is an object of Brahman. No state can be called Brahman. From this we can understand even Samadhi is not a state of Brahman. Some people say we have to experience Brahman in a different state. You cannot experience Brahman in any given state, because all states are experienced by Brahman. Brahman is the illuminer of every state. Therefore, in no state you can get the experience of Brahman. So, Jagrat Swapna Sushuptyadi Prapancham Prakashate. It is the illuminer of all states. Therefore, transcends all states. Therefore, asamsari, free from samsara. Asamsari Brahman. Samsara belongs to the states, Jagrat and Swapna, mainly in Jagrat and Swapna. Brahman transcends the states, therefore transcends samsara. Tad Brahma, that Brahman, Jnatva, understanding that Brahman. In what manner one should understand Brahman? You understand there is a Brahman elsewhere in the Swarga, in the heaven, above the sky, the seventh sky. That is not the way one should understand Brahman. If you understand that Brahman is something outside yourself, it is not a proper understanding. If you understand Brahman as a third person, it is not a proper understanding. That knowledge is not going to give any result. Then how to understand? Tad Brahma aham iti jnatva. I am Brahman. Understand Brahman as the first person, not as a third person. I am Brahman. Such knowledge is called aparoksha jnana. When I understand I am Brahman, it is aparoksha jnana. If I understand Brahman as a third person, somewhere outside me, then it is paroksha jnana. If I understand aham brahmasmi, I am Brahman, then it is called aparoksha jnana. Because then Brahman is no way remote to me. Brahman is aparoksha, not remote. Therefore, this understanding is called aparoksha jnana. Brahma aham iti jnatva. Understanding so, sarva bandhaif pramuchyate. The jnani becomes free from all binding factors, all desires, because he is free from the root of desires, ignorance. Thus, the Guru concluded, stating jnana phala, the result of knowledge. Now people may ask, when will I get the result of knowledge? How long should I wait? You don't have to wait. You are getting the result. As and when you are getting the knowledge, you are getting the result also. Even now, you have gained some result. For most of us, it is visible. Just imagine, if you had not come to Vedanta, what your life would have been. Psychologically, is there no change? Are you able to withstand a crisis in life better? Are you able to find happiness within yourself? If yes, that means you are seeing the result. You get a sense of satisfaction within yourself. There is tripti, satisfaction within oneself. And freedom from insecurity. And freedom from emotional vulnerability. All these are the visible results of Vedanta. And nobody can escape from getting these results. If you are sincerely exposing yourself to this knowledge, if you are sincerely pursuing this knowledge, you cannot escape from getting the result. One of the acharyas says, Sanechannapi muchyate. Even without your desire, you will become free. That is the power of this knowledge. That is the efficacy of this knowledge. And there is no room for doubting, because it is the experience of so many people in the past, and it is the experience of many people even today. Therefore, there is no room for any doubt regarding the efficacy of this knowledge. So thus the Guru concluded the teaching. Hereafter, it is the words of the Shishya, Ashvalayana. In fact, there can be a sentence, Shishya Uvacha, Ashvalayana Uvacha. In the Upanishad, we find two types of statements. One is Upadesha Vakya. When the Guru tells the Shishya, you are Brahman, Tat Tvamasi, it is Upadesha Vakya. Because Guru is telling the Shishya, you are Brahman. That is how Upadesha happens. So far, we have seen Upadesha Vakya, like Tattvameva Tvameva Tat, etc. Then there is another type of statement called Anubhava Vakya. It is a statement of understanding. After understanding the Upadesha, the Shishya speaks and he conveys his understanding. And when he conveys his understanding, it will be in the form of I am Brahman. Aham Brahmasmi. The Upadesha Vakya is in second person. You are Brahman. And the Anubhava Vakya is in first person. I am Brahman. Hereafter, we will see Anubhava Vakya. Because everything refers to, all these statements refer to Brahman as Aham. Aham Brahmasmi. And the same Anubhava Vakya can be used for Nididhyasana. One of the most important purposes of Anubhava Vakya is Nididhyasana. These statements can be used for Nididhyasana. Let me remind once again what is Nididhyasana. Nididhyasana is a deliberate abidance in the teaching. A deliberate practice of abidance in the knowledge to assimilate the knowledge, to internalize the knowledge. The knowledge should reach every part and parcel of one's personality. The knowledge should be available during transaction. The personality should be aligned with the knowledge. This is accomplished by means of nididhyasana. And how to do nididhyasana? Abide in the knowledge. Abide in the thoughts that are in line with the knowledge. And it needs effort, because the spontaneous thoughts of our mind generally are opposed to the teaching of Vedanta. Spontaneously, Vedanta unfriendly thoughts, thoughts that are opposed to Vedanta, surface in the mind. For example, the Vedanta has taught you are complete. But when we sit sometimes, we start thinking about our incompleteness. I'm incomplete. Vedanta says you are not the body. But when we have a knee pain, we think of our body. I am the body. I have knee pain. And we feel a sense of helplessness. So these Vedanta unfriendly thoughts, from the Vedantic point of view, they are unhealthy thoughts. They are unhealthy because they cause samsara. The thoughts give rise to the problems of samsara. One has to deal with these unhealthy thoughts. It's not easy to deal with them because it has become a habit. The unhealthy thoughts have become our habit. Before coming to Vedanta, for ages, we have been entertaining these unhealthy thoughts. I am the body. I am limited. World is real. Jagat Satyam. All these are unhealthy thoughts. They are very powerful, deep rooted in the mind, because we have been cherishing them for ages. Not just in this Janma, even in the previous Janmas. That's why they are sometimes called habitual orientation. They are the habitual orientations in our mind. In Sanskrit, in the Vedantic terminology, is called Viparita Bhavana. Viparita means opposite. Bhavana, thought. Thoughts that are opposite of Vedanta thoughts. Thoughts opposed to the teachings of Vedanta. They need to be dealt with. How to deal with them? When such thought comes, not to encourage them. Instead, encourage a counter thought which is in keeping with Vedanta. For example, I am limited. This thought comes. Then do not encourage the thought. Instead, encourage another thought. I am complete. I am Purnaha. Abide in this thought for a good length of time. I am Purnaha, I am Purnaha. Then slowly, I am Apurna, I am incomplete. This thought becomes weaker and weaker. And ultimately, it becomes powerless. It becomes like a snake without poison. It can no longer disturb you psychologically. That is Nididhyasana. Now I hope you understand what Nididhyasana is. So, here are some tips to do Nididhyasana. The Upanishad is giving some tips how to do Nididhyasana. You can repeat these words and abide in their meaning. That becomes a Nididhyasana. Let's see the verse. Trishu dhamasu yad bhogyam bhokta bhogascha yad bhavet tebhyo vilakshanas sakshi chinmatroham sadashivaha. Even here, the student Ashwalayana explains the teaching in his own way. In fact, this shows how well the Shishya has understood. When the Shishya is able to explain in his own language the same idea without contradicting the teaching of the Guru, that means the Shishya has understood properly. In Vedantic terminology, there is something called Triputi. It is a way of explaining duality. The duality can be explained in many ways. One way of explaining duality, Dvaita, is Triputi. Triputi means group of three. A group of three or a set of three. The universe can be classified into a group of three, threefold. What are they? Bhokta, Bhogya and Bhoga. Bhokta the enjoyer. Bhogya, the object of enjoyment. And bhoga, the process of enjoyment. The enjoyer, the object of enjoyment, and the process of enjoyment. That is how this world can be seen. Even now, everyone is a bhokta. From our own standpoint, we are all bhoktas. I am looking at you and I see the numbers 35. There are 35 people, and the 35 people are bhogya for me, because I am experiencing you. You are the objects of my experience. There are 35 objects of experience for me, bhogya. And I am the bhokta. If it is a little more, I will be happy. Oh, too many bhogyas. If it is a little less, I am disappointed. Oh, now there are less bhogya. So for me, all 35 are bhogya. For all these 35, I am bhogya. I become bhogya for you. You are experiencing me. You are the experiencer. Some people are happy. Some people are not happy with me. And some people are getting tired. There can be various bhogas in your mind. It depends on your punya. The bhogya is same. Same Swami is the bhogya. There are 35 bhoktas. But the bhogas differ. Your enjoyment differs. What makes the difference? It is your own punya. If you have punya, you will enjoy the Swami. You will like what the Swami has said. And if it is papa, you get fed up with the Swami. That is what makes the difference between our experience of a person. Even to get the best of a person, you need punya. Otherwise, however good the person is, you cannot benefit from the person. So the bhoga, the experience, the enjoyment depends on our karma. How much punya we have and how much papa we have. So this whole universe is classified into three: bhokta, bhogya, and bhoga. These three collectively form a triputi. As long as there is a division of bhokta, bhogya and bhoga, there will be samsara. As long as there is a division, dvaita, there is samsara. Then the Upanishad says, you transcend the divisions of triputi. You transcend the divisions of bhokta, bhogya and bhoga. How do you know that? Let's go back to the example of three states: Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti. In the three states, the bhokta, bhogya and bhoga, all three differ. The bhokta of the waking is not there in the dream, and the bhokta of the waking and dream is not there in the deep sleep. The bhokta changes. Now, in the waking, I am present in this body. I am identifying in this with this body and I am experiencing the world. But when I go to the dream, this body is gone. I get a different body. A new body is projected. And I become bhokta of the dream world. The bhokta, bhogya and bhoga, these three come and go. In deep sleep, I don't see myself as a bhokta also. The bhoga, bhokta, bhogya, the difference is unmanifest. So these three change. They come and go. But you, the witness of these three, is always present. You don't come and go. Therefore, you transcend the triputi. You transcend the dvaita, the duality. Therefore, you transcend samsara. You are free from the problems of samsara. Trishu dhamasu yad bhogyam. Trishu dhamasu. In the three dhama means three avasthas, three states. Yad bhogyam, the objects of enjoyment, and bhokta, the enjoyer, and bhogascha yad bhavet, and the bhoga, the enjoyment itself. Aham, I, referring to what really deserves the reference I. My true nature is Sakshi, is the witness of the three states. Witness of Bhokta, Bhogya and Bhoga in the three states. And being the witness, being the Sakshi, Aham Chinmatraha, I am pure consciousness. The Sakshi is pure consciousness. Tebhyo Vilakshana, distinct from the three states, distinct from Bhokta, Bhogya and Bhoga. And therefore, Sada Shivaha, always Shivaha, always Brahman, the Asamsari. The word Shivaha means Mangala, auspicious. Auspicious means free from samsara, free from all problems, untainted by all problems. Aham Sadashivaha, I am Sadashivaha. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate.